Hello again, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of Your Fave Film Critic, the podcast starring me, hosted by me. It's all me. It's just me, Dom Griffin, your favorite film critic, back at it again with the podcasting. Hope everyone's doing well. Everyone's had a good week. Back to work this week, which has been really fun. And no, it's not. It has not been really fun. It's been terrible. However, I also, as I hope you've seen by now, got a new video on the channel this week. I reviewed Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Martin Scorsese film, and it's the first video I've done like that in a while, actually, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it feels good to kind of have some non-pod content back on the channel, And this week we're going to kind of talk about, some of the same type of stuff we talk about. We'll talk about a couple of news items that I think are pretty ironically connected. I'll give a little bit of a inside baseball, channel update type section of the pod today. We'll talk about what I watched this week, which will be somewhat less prolific than the last couple of weeks, mercifully. And then I'll have questions at the end, the tried and true Your Fave Film Critic structure. So, yeah, we'll start with the news. Let's start with the news. So, a couple weeks ago, I was pretty convinced that the sag-aftra strike would be over by now, because the WGA strike, ended, and the fact that the studios, the AMPTP can seem to have kowtowed so much to the writers to get them back into, producing, content for the future. I sort of assumed that the actor strike would be not far behind. They were in negotiations. It just seemed like, this would be almost over by now, And I want to be really clear. I know I beat this like a dead horse every time I talk about the strikes, but I want to be really clear that I am not eager for the strikes to end because I can't wait for the next superhero movie or whatever to come out. It's not that. I just know there are a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who work in the industry and stuff who can't work because there's no productions going on, So I want people to be able to get back to work and earn a living. That's my main thing. And obviously I want them to be able to do those things having won the strike and gotten what they wanted, not being bullied into it or what have you. So I believe last week or so, Ted Sarandos, the fucking guy from Netflix, and your boy, I think Bob Iger, I guess, walked away from the negotiations. So Disney and Netflix just left the table because one of the parts of the counter proposals was that the actors wanted a percentage of subscriber revenue from the streaming platforms. And I believe when that first leaked out as the cause for the breakdown in talks, it was characterized incorrectly. I believe it was characterized to be a larger amount of money and a larger percentage than it truly was, which is shady, but what are you going to do? It's how these people operate. And today I was reading about this and I was like, what the hell? So today, I guess George Clooney and a host of other millionaire actors got together to meet with SAG leadership to basically talk about some stuff they want to do that they think will help, hasten the end of the strike. And the way it was reported in Deadline and stuff was very much essentially, I believe there was it was two proposals. One was changing the floor for membership funding so that essentially the people who make more money will pay more into the union, and also a proposal for people who are at the top of the call sheet to be ranked last, so to speak, in the giving out of residuals or royalty stuff. And in a vacuum, the things, and especially with George Clooney's smiling face, George Clooney has that thing in all of the a lot of the 90s movies where he's kind of bobbing his head a little bit. It's kind of a Clooney thing. He doesn't do as much anymore, but he just being charming and being Clooney and stuff. And in a vacuum, the stuff seemed very helpful. It seemed oh, cool, a bunch of rich people are going to give some money to help the people who are less fortunate. But it it seems like a lot of the actors, I don't remember like the full list, but it's like Clooney, Tyler Perry, Affleck. Like when I saw Big Ben, I was like, well, it's got to be at least kind of good. Like Ben's like a real like pro labor guy. He seems pretty cool. All the stuff he talked about with him and Matt Damon's new company seemed like legit, seemed on the up and up. So I thought it must be like good. But I read an op-ed later where someone was kind of breaking it down and talking about how like essentially these things they were pitching in no way are bridging the gap with the actual issues that caused the breakdown in talks. Like it can't be a situation where the studio won't give in to doing something. So all the richest actors get together and go, we'll give everybody some money if you just shut the fuck up. Like we'll give you a bunch of money because most of us have production companies. Most of us also work as producers. Many of us also work as directors. We'd all like to get back to work, please. And like at the same time I saw this, I saw a poster for like Clooney has a new movie he's directed. It's got boats in the title. I'm not even gonna fucking bother looking it up. It looks fucking stupid. It looks really terrible. It looks like a really shitty movie. And I just remember when I think Clooney's first movie is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which is, sort of loosely based on a really, really good Charlie Kaufman script about if Chuck Barris, former host of The Gong Show, was actually like an assassin for the CIA or whatever. And I thought it was a really good movie. It was like high school me, like loved that movie. I thought it was like rad. I was a big Charlie Kaufman mark, and I always liked Clooney, so like him directing a movie seemed very cool. I liked the movie quite a bit. And then Good Night and Good Luck is really good too, I think. But then like after those first two movies, he's directed a bunch more movies, and they're all just kind of like, ugh. It's like, you can just stop. Brother, you don't have to keep directing movies. You can go back to acting. We still like when you do that. But I don't think I've seen another movie of his post those first two where he's been like a good director. I'm getting off a tangent. But anyway, I say this to say that like a lot of the actors represented in this group are actors who are like the ones who are much closer in terms of like their feelings about the strike to like the studios themselves. That's the vibe I got. And then I also thought like, well, I wonder if that narrative, that characterization is part of the AMPTP's, like their plan to kind of like divide and conquer people. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Like because also the stuff that I thought might be like have placed for propaganda by the studio, also seems like it was placed by the actors themselves to, pat themselves in the back for this thing they came up with. And, a lot of people have just been like, look, if you guys really want to help, why don't you go become strike captains? Why don't you go picket and stuff? And obviously, I think certain movie stars, it's probably not a good idea for them to actually be on the picket line. And some of them, because it's just like, I think it's bad for like imaging, you know what I mean? Like to have someone that we all know is worth like hundreds of millions of dollars or something hanging out, like asking for more money. Because I think dumb people will look at that and be like, look at them. I can't believe these liberals want more money or whatever. So whole thing was like kind of just sad, because now it actually is starting to feel like this is not going to get wrapped up before the end of the year, which is not good. The only sort of dog I have in this race is just that, I run a movie theater, and I do feel like there's a noticeable impact from actors not being able to promote some of their movies. Maybe not every movie, but some movies you can tell they are actually like impacted financially by not being able to be promoted by like the good looking people they put on the posters. Killers of the Flower Moon, they just put Marty out there and he's talking everywhere, and like that's fine. He's sort of like the star of his own, you know what I mean? Like it's fine, he can do that. But some movies, like, they're about to have to sell a Marvel movie with Nia DaCosta walking around talking about how bad an experience it was making it. So like, I don't know what these people are going to do. It's not great. But that news story popped in my feed directly next to the story about how Netflix is raising their subscription price to $22.99 a month. And all the streamers keep doing these incremental increases, and it's kind of a dead horse of like, okay, now there's like 7 or 8 major streamers, and if you actually pay for all of them, you're paying this exorbitant amount of money. And how much content do you really watch, right? How many movies and TV shows do you really watch? And I have a thing where like I basically don't pay for Netflix except for like certain months of the year. Like if I have to like review something that's a Netflix film, you know, like the Netflix's like press thing is they will give you access to a title, like a digital screener of it, but like they just link your media account to your Netflix account. So like if I want to watch a Netflix screener, I kind of have to have an active Netflix subscription. So there's certain times of the year where like they happen to put out multiple movies that I kind of want to write about or make videos about. And like those times I'll fire it up and pay for it and then try to get screeners and stuff. But the rest of the time I just don't even fucking use Netflix that much. There's so few things I want to watch on that platform. I think a lot of the original content is just garbage. And it is very rare that there's a movie that I want to watch on Letterboxd and then I hit the little, if you're like a pro or a patron on Letterboxd, it shows you like all of this, where all this stuff is streaming, which is always nice. I mean, there's other sites that do that too, but I feel like the Letterboxd version is pretty streamlined. Very rarely do I see the little fucking Tadum N as being a thing that I need. Oftentimes I just end up having to like rent something off of Amazon or whatever, or acquire it through other means. But the whole thing just seems like a bummer to see that like the talks broke down, because it's like, we don't want you to have any kind of percentage of the subscription revenue. And then it's like immediately after, oh, by the way, we're also increasing the subscription revenue. It's like, these people are just fucking monsters. I mean, that's really kind of all it is. And they're not even monsters protecting something that like feels like it's of any value anymore. I wish they just fucking play ball, basically. This isn't really like a news item, I suppose, but I saw a tweet today. That's news, right? Tweets are news, or posts on X. And it was, box office projections for this upcoming weekend. Killers of the Flower Moon opens wide, and on a bunch of premium large format stuff too, which is cool. You can see it on IMAX and shit like that, Dolby and whatnot. But Taylor Swift Eras Tour is in the second weekend of release. And it has this weird shit where like it plays on the weekends, but then it doesn't play all week. So like it played like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday didn't play, but it's playing today and it's playing tomorrow. It's a whole fucking, this new model is like cool and more power to the pop stars being able to circumvent the studios to put their concert films in front of, stan eyeballs, but fucking weird. Anyway, I think Taylor is tracking to make like 30 to 40 million or something this weekend. And then Killers of the Flower Moon's tracking to do like 20 or 30. And, that article is getting quote tweeted with essentially one of two tweets, basically. It's a lot of, movie people, a lot of film Twitter people talking about how much of a bummer it is that like Apple is putting out a Scorsese movie and it's only tracking to make like $20 million. Like, and it costs $200. This isn't fair. Why aren't more people seeing the movie? And it's like, forget marketing, forget everything else. Look, it is a 3.5 hour movie. It's a 3.5 hour movie, and it's rated R. From a very basic, just like how math works, it's hobbling its own box office potential at that length. It is very, very hard to effectively schedule a movie that is longer than like 2 hours and 45 minutes to get enough shows in every day. You know what I mean? It's difficult. And the fewer opportunities there are to see a movie, on a psychological level, you are lessening how many people can come see it. If you have a show on multiple screens and you get a show that's like 11 a.m., 12, 12:15, 1:40, like like the Showtime listings, the more opportunities there are to see a movie, the more likely people's like plans will align with one of those showtimes. Whereas if you want to see a movie and you and your friend happen to have like a pocket of time, and the next show doesn't start for an hour and a half, and it's a 3.5 hour movie, you're not going to watch that fucking movie. That's just not happening. You might, like, again, I run a movie theater. The number of times I've seen people just go, I'll watch A Haunting in Venice. Not because they want to, not because they're dying to see another fucking Poirot movie. It's just, it's a 2 hour movie, and there's enough shows of it that it tends to line up when people are bored and free, So that's kind of the reality of this, is like, there's, no matter how the movie's marketed, no matter how good the raves are, it's a hard sell. Killers of the Flower Moon is a hard sell. I think it's an easy sell in the sense that it's like, oh, one of our greatest living filmmakers has a new movie out. Who knows if this is going to be his last? Please go see it. But at that length, at that rating, and all these factors, yeah, it's a hard sell. So again, there's people who are like oh, this is horseshit, right? But there's this other weird fucking contingent of people, probably pretty adjacent to all the Marvel people that always bitch about this guy, who are coming at it from the angle of like assuming that Marty is also going to say negative things about the Taylor Swift like thing, like that, like he's going to look at it like this is a theme park, this isn't cinema, or saying assuming that he does not like concert films when he has directed concert films. One really famous one, and multiple documentaries about musicians. Like he's a big music person, and the idea that like Marty is somewhere angry at Taylor Swift for having a concert film come out. It's insane fucking shit. And I feel like it's just this willful fucking ignorance about this man. Do you know what I mean? And it just drives me insane. On the lost episode of the pod that I recorded a few weeks ago that I could not release because the audio was unlistenable, I had a pretty lengthy rant actually about when that big GQ profile with Marty came out. It's one of the most beautiful things I've read all year. And it's this really deep and moving portrait. He talks about mortality and like how much time does he have left, and talking about friendships and stuff. And it's like this really moving thing. But of course there's like one fucking pull quote about superhero movies, and people just picked it apart and relitigated that whole fucking debate. And it just made me sick to my stomach, basically. And it makes me so angry because he's such an interesting filmmaker and he's such a powerful storyteller. And there's so much like compassion in his work. And yet so many people are just like, oh, the gangster movie guy, the guy that has the movies with the gangsters and people get shot and the toxic masculinity. And it's like, are you just like an infant? I don't understand. Like, I'm not saying it has to be your thing or you have to like it, but I don't like when people shit on something, but they have to make up a version of it that doesn't exist to shit on it. You know what I mean? Like they have to create like this straw man filmography for this guy. It's fucking, it's infuriating. I don't want to get off on the thing. I'm sorry. But yeah, I don't know, man. I hope the movie has legs. I know that it basically won't. A movie like Killers of the Flower Moon is going to like start off kind of soft, just in general, for logistical reasons. And then if the Oscars even happen with the strikes and stuff, if the Oscars happen or whatever, if it gets a lot of Oscar nominations, it'll see an increase. A year or two ago, whenever The Fabelmans came out, the Spielberg movie, that was a movie that we opened, and it opened pretty soft. Steven Spielberg releasing a movie about his childhood, and people are just like, don't care, don't give a shit. The Oscar nominations come out, and then we started having sold out shows. Like it's sometimes people need the cosign, to do the shit. So maybe that'll happen for Killers. I don't know. I mean, it's sad to think that he might not have much more time with us. Like he might not be able to make more than another movie. He might not make another movie at all. But it is good to know that like there is a strong likelihood that someone will fucking pay for it. I don't know that it'll be like a great value proposition. I don't know if it'll make a lot of money, whatever, but like someone's going to fucking make that happen. I hope, So there's an article about him in the AV Club a few days ago by someone named Raymond Green. And it was the most infuriating thing I've ever read. And if you want to be pissed off, please read it. But also maybe don't give the guy the clicks. But like people are all on Twitter trying to find this guy. Like, where the fuck? We just come outside. We just want to talk. We're not going to jump you. And then I saw people positing that he might just be like, it might have just been written by like Chat GPT. You know what I mean? And I don't know, like it was really bad. It made me really mad. I gotta get off the fucking internet. I think is what we're learning here. But that's all I really have to say about the news. That's enough of the news section. So I do want to do a little bit of a channel update. I don't want to make a video about this because like I hate making like, I've made a handful of channel update videos, but like anyone that is into YouTube knows that it's like every time a channel you like does that, there's a party that's like, hey, what if instead of doing this, you just put out some new content? what if instead of talking to us about making some stuff, you just went and fucking did it? That's how I feel sometimes. Like I'll watch, unless it's like something super serious. Like I watch a lot of tech stuff on YouTube. Like I follow tons of tech channels. And Jonathan Morrison, TLD, like really seems like a really sweet guy. He's been struggling with some health stuff. He's basically going blind from, it's a whole thing, but he had to release a couple of videos this year that are like channel update. Here's why I haven't been putting out content. I can't see. Stuff like that is like, yeah, you got to be able to talk to your audience about that. And like, that's important and stuff like, and even doing it, you can tell it pains him to have to do that because it just always feels so weird to do. And almost every time I've made a channel update video, it's usually just me being like, man, I haven't put out any videos in a while. I feel super guilty about it. I want to level with people. I want to be transparent. I want people to know that like what's going on or whatever. And like the reality is like most people are not dialed in enough to really care. And I don't mean that in like a poor me way. I just mean that like if you like the videos someone makes, even if you care about them as a person, like you're friends with them or whatever, that's different. Or like you have like developed like a parasocial relationship with them because like you like their content so much, whatever it is, you still, there's usually a limit on how much you care about like getting a video that's like, hey, here's what's going on with me and here's where I've been and stuff. And like, you know, people, your mileage may vary on that shit, right? But I don't know, I feel like I kind of want to talk about this a little bit, I guess, and like it's okay to skip over it basically. Like if you don't want to hear this, that's totally acceptable. I've been struggling to make the video about Codes of the Flower Moon that I put out this week. I watched it a whole week, and every time I sat to make notes or write some stuff out, it was not coming out of me very well. And I was like, well, fuck, I got to do something, because I've had a handful of times in the last few months where I've planned on making a video and then it just ends up not happening. Like I can't put pen to paper, or I put pen to paper and I don't like it. I don't want to get on camera. Like stuff just happens. You know what I mean? Like it's all me. I don't have anyone who edits my videos. I haven't gotten to that level of success where like you can just like hire someone in to kind of help with stuff or whatever. So it's all me. And the bad thing about when it's all you is it's really easy to just like not do some shit, and not even like in a terrible procrastinating kind of way. It's just reality. Just sometimes like, I have these narrow pockets of time to produce things. And if I fall off track or I'm not motivated enough and I miss that window, well, that's it for until the next window opens up, you know? So I started getting really worried about what I was going to do with the video. Cause like I've moved away a little bit from doing as many straightforward review videos for the channel. And that was kind of conscious. I kind of felt like reviews should be a thing that I write for, like, you know, I'm the film critic for like a local publication. Like I should save my review stuff for them. And then also I write reviews at Looper, but I haven't been writing quite as many because there's not as many movies to go around and they hired more writers. So like I'm there less frequently now. And I was like, well, I'm not writing as many movie reviews as I normally would, and I'm not doing any for the channel. So it's like, I'm not actually fucking reviewing anything. And then some of the stuff that I go see, I talk about on the pod, which I enjoy. I really enjoy just talking about things like kind of casually without any sort of like structure or whatever. But I'm not reviewing stuff. Like I'm basically literally just not reviewing a lot of things. So back in the day, I don't know, I feel like throughout 2020 and 2021, I reviewed so many more movies for the channel. And one of the things that I tried to do for the most part was I just tried to make them tighter. Like when I first started the channel, all of my videos were like entirely too long because I just didn't know any better. And I didn't know how to like be on camera and stuff and like whatever. And then I got to a point where I figured out how to kind of like tightly script what I wanted to do and then leave pockets for looser additional stuff. So I could kind of write a review for the most part. And then I'd have a couple of bits maybe that I didn't want to pin down entirely, like in scripting. And then those bits I could feel comfortable that I could riff on what I felt on camera. And then I knew that I could chop it enough to where it would all kind of come together. Because some of my early videos, once I got started to learn more about editing a video, I would find that I like rambled and then I couldn't go back in and like, I might go over a point more than once. And then I realized that I had a thought, but I never got around to it, or I didn't word it quite right and stuff. And I'd just be looking at past me in the A roll, like, God damn it, why didn't you just say this? This would make this make more sense. You know, it was killing me. So I wanted to move away from just that approach to being a little more tight and like controlled. And I thought it was better too. I thought that like I could crank out more videos. They'd be shorter, but they'd be like more compact, more tight. And I felt like I wasn't wasting anybody's time and that I got a lot across without taking up too much of anyone's time. And that was really fun. I mean, I wasn't working and shit. So that's all I did every day. But then like, once I went back to work back in like middle 2021 or end of like summer 2021, I had like less time to make videos. It became more of like making one once a week instead of every day, like I was kind of trying to. And it became easier to be less scripted. And part of that too was like, for a little bit, we were very blessed as YouTuber movie people that a lot of movies that were coming out directly to like streaming and stuff. So it was easier to get a lot of B-roll footage. You know what I mean? So you can like script out some stuff and then, you know, just like edit together B-roll to make it look interesting. And then once things went back to being like theatrical first, theatrical only, there's just less footage available to you until the movie ends up hitting like, you know, VOD or something. And I started like the approach that I've been using. I would just write whatever. And then, you know, I can't really read a prompt there. Like I can't focus. Like I have poor vision. Like I can't do it. So whenever I'm like reading something in one of my videos that I've written, I'm just like reading it off of like my like burner phone basically. And that looks bad on camera. So I would just cover it with B-roll. But I had started making videos where like I did not have enough footage of movies. If there wasn't enough stuff to work from. And it was harder and harder to have a few videos where you can see me just trying to reuse the same like handful of shots from the trailer and stuff. And I was like, I don't like the way this looks. So I hated it. And I moved more towards, well, I'll just try to get better at talking and not rambling, like just talking and getting my stuff across a little bit more. And some of my videos that use that format, I'm really proud of. Like that, I feel like they're passionate. I feel like people like the approach that feels like you're having a conversation with a friend after a movie. That's kind of always been like the vibe I go for. And I like doing that, but like it makes the recording of videos like this thing where sometimes when I do have a small amount of time to make a video, I am in the zone mentally and like I can just turn my camera on my phone and just talk and like hit all the points I want to hit and not take too much time. And then I can clean it up and it feels great. And then other times I'm not feeling it. And I'm just like, I have all this dead space and I'm just like yammering and like repeating myself and then editing it is like hell. And then like, if I manage to make it good enough to where people might like it, I still don't like it. And that's hard. Honestly, like if I like something, it's easier if everybody else doesn't like it. Cause it's like, well, I like it. I'm the one that sat and worked on all this stuff. I'm happy with it. It's okay if you don't. But like, if I don't, and then no one watches it, it's like, wow, I put all this time into this thing and like no one's here, you know, it sucks. So the one thing I wanted to move towards was just doing more long form video essays. Do you know what I mean? Like I have a lot of people who I follow who are so good at those things. And I have a handful of videos on the channel that I've done in that vein that I'm very proud of. But like every time I started to work on one, it would just take forever. And then I would just get bored with it. I would just get to a point where I'm like, am I even saying anything? Am I saying anything with this? And the one thing I really don't want to do, and I'm not going to throw shade at any like specific creators or anything, but it's like, I don't want to make those like video essays that are like 45 minutes long and they don't need to be. It's just that you need the watch time for the ad revenue. And so something that's like a very simple idea gets stretched out into like this super long epic thing. And I had a couple of scrapped videos this summer that I was like, I'm doing that. I'm looking at this on the page and I can feel like this is just that. Nobody needs that from me. Like I don't need to be putting that much of my effort into that. So like, that's kind of why there were so many dead spaces was on my little content calendar. I had a plan to make a video. And then when I'd start working on it, I would literally just ask myself like, is this worth it? You know? And it wasn't always like, what perfect is like the enemy of good or whatever. It wasn't like one of those things where it's like, I'm holding myself back. I'm being too critical. It was really just like, no, I have to be honest. It's very important that when you don't have like an editor or someone else overlooking your stuff, you really have to be honest with yourself. And it's really important to just be able to look at yourself and go, this isn't good. And anytime you make things, you are asking people to take their time to consume it. And time is precious. Time is like the most valuable thing there is. Like it's a non-renewable resource. And I just think it's fucked up to make something that you know is not up to snuff, that you're not even happy with or proud of, and then just throwing it out anyway. Like, here you go. Blah. And I just don't. I've been doing this long enough now, and there's enough people that I know devote a lot of their time to listening to the things I say and watching the things that I make, that I respect all of them too much to like put out certain bullshit. And a lot of this year, every time I've tried to get back into that video essay lane, the stuff I've come up with is just like not good. Straight up, just it's not good. It's not interesting. I don't have anything new to say. I'm just not going to put that stuff out. Straight up, I'm just not going to do it. Even if it means that I don't put out anything, I'm not going to put out like some shit. I'm not going to put out some bullshit. I really actually respect my viewers and my listeners, and I hope everyone kind of like knows that about me, that I really do care. I really do respect people's time, or try to. So when I decided to do this video in the vein of one of my old sub 10-minute review videos, I haven't made one in a while. So when I was like done, I was like, did I do something wrong? I haven't made anything this short in a while. But it felt right. Like I didn't have a ton more to say at the moment. I didn't have a ton more of stuff I wanted to get off, and I liked it. I don't know how everyone else feels. I feel like when I do put out long videos, I always see people, not always, but I see people say things about like, oh, new Dom video, and it's like, 30 minutes or something, or like they seem excited about the length. But I feel like the last few things I've done that are long don't really earn that time. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be just like riffing and stuff quite as much. And I mean, now that I have the pod, the itch I have to talk, the itch I have to like just be more conversational and more casual, this scratches that. Like every week it's just an hour of me going, and people are cool with that in the context of a podcast. I feel like that makes me feel like when I do have time to make actual videos for the channel, I don't want them to be as conversational. I don't want them to be just like the pod. I want them to be a little bit more controlled, and I want them to be a little more like considered. I feel like I haven't made anything that's like that in a while, and I didn't know if anyone was going to fuck with it or not. And people seem to like it so far. But more to the point, I liked it. I was pretty happy with it. So what I think I am planning to do going forward is I'm going to try to make more just straightforward reviews, because I haven't done them in a while. And there are movies coming up that I'm not covering for other publications that I think I should cover for the channel. And I am hoping to create them more in the vein of the Killers of the Flower Moon video. Me really writing some stuff, not just like coming in here with some notes and then just, blah, 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 blah. Like, I sometimes that's the way, sometimes it's not. And like, I think for some of these things, I don't want to do that. And hopefully one thing, it takes up less time. You know what I mean? God, just airdropping the file over to my MacBook it takes less time. You know what I mean? Because it's smaller files. That alone is cool. And I just feel like it is nicer. I think it's like nicer. I think it'll actually be able to make me make more stuff. But I am still aiming towards getting stuff that's longer, a little more substantive. It's just that I don't want to force it. I do not want to put out like a 40-minute video or something that isn't worth 40 minutes of someone's time. That's kind of where I'm at. So I'm feeling slightly more inspired lately, which is good, I guess, because sometimes I just don't feel it. Do you know what I mean? And like, there's so many people that talk about movies and so many people that make things that like, I don't want to waste anyone's time, man. Like it's like a really serious thing to me that it's like, I don't want people to associate me with dicking around. You know what I mean? I want people, when they think of me or when they see me in their feed or something, that they know it's going to be good. They know it's going to be honest. They know it's going to be true. They know it's going to be fair. Like those are things I want people to associate with me. I want people to think of me as being, like measured and thoughtful and stuff. I don't want people to start thinking of me as being like, hey, remember that point that Dom just lost it? And then everything he put out just seemed kind of like crazy and not good. I don't want that to happen. I'd rather just stop doing this entirely than do that. And then, I could go become a cobbler or something like that. I just, that would be better than this. So, yeah, so there are a few movies coming up. I think we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing some more of that. And yeah, I'm not going to get into a whole like pledge or promise about it because like, who knows, maybe next week it's not going to work out or something, but that's what I hope to happen. And I hope that you guys are cool with that. And also, hey, if you are listening to this or watching it, please leave comments or hit me up to let me know what you think. Maybe I'll put like a poll in the community tab or something. Like I want to know what people like want to watch and want to listen to, so, but I also don't want to seem like I'm farming, like, hey, you guys figure out what I'm going to do, like this is on you. Like, that's not what I mean. I do want the feedback. So, all right, enough of the channel update stuff. Let's talk about what I watched this week. So since October 1st, since starting this Hooptober shit, I have watched 44 horror movies. And this week was like the fewest of them that I watched because I went back to work and I couldn't just lay in bed all day doing this. And I also actually finally hit the sort of the like burnout point. I'm going to talk about the movies that I watched out of order for this reason. The other day I wanted to watch more movies. Like I was in the movie mood. I wanted to watch some stuff. And I've been trying to group the movies on my Hooptober list like thematically, so that when I'm watching them all in a day, it kind of feels like an actual curated thing. So I watched two sort of like queer movies back to back, and there's like two others that I haven't actually watched on the list yet. I thought I could watch all four in a day, and then like I watched the first two, and then I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. And this is not a knock on these two movies. It's just that like these are the two movies that I officially hit the wall on, where I was like, okay, maybe I've been going a little too hard, a little too fast, for a little too long. So I'm obviously still going to hit like my target. I've actually technically like obliterated it already, but I kept adding movies to the watch list. So I'm hoping to watch the remaining 18 movies. I've got like 12 days. 18 movies in 12 days is like fucking nothing. That's fine. I'll kill that. I'm not worried about it. But I watched Shopping for Fangs, which is a movie from 1997, co-directed by Justin Lin. It's sort of like the movie he helped make before Better Luck Tomorrow. And I've had it on my watch list for a super long time. I always thought it looked interesting. And it like the way it was pitched is like interconnected stories that are sort of like romance stories or slice of life stuff, like in Los Angeles, but like with vampires and like werewolves or something. And I thought that it was going to be more directly genre deconstruction-y, and it's not really. It actually sort of has a vibe. It's more adjacent to like a lot of 90s post Tarantino things. Like there's a bunch of scenes in a diner. It's like sort of a nonlinear, like not fully nonlinear, but it's like a bunch of like an ensemble split up between different B plots that all intersect and stuff like that type of movie. A lot of independent movies in the 90s. And it's like the first movie that John Cho was ever in. It's like so young John Cho, and he's really good in it. And the whole cast is actually pretty good. It was not what I thought it was going to be. And as a result, it was very difficult for me to find like an entry point into it. So I watched it, but I wasn't like that into it. I was kind of, it wasn't a very long movie either. It was pretty short, but I could not connect. And I was like, I don't think there's anything wrong with this movie. I just think I'm burnt out a little bit. I think I've watched too many movies, which happens from time to time. But I don't feel sometimes I've had that where like, I don't want to watch anymore. I still want to watch movies. I still have the itch. It's just like, I had to kind of be like, you know what? For a couple of days, we're not going to watch anything. We're good, So The film I watched right after is a film called So Vam. It's an Australian film, and it's like a vampire movie, but it's like much more explicitly dealing with sort of the Anne Ricean, vampire as metaphor for like homosexuality stuff. And there's like this young kid who's gay, and like he gets like, essentially like really terribly treated and like kind of like hate crimed a lot. And he meets a woman who turns into a vampire. And then like he meets a bunch of vampires and these people who are more accepting. It's kind of like finding his own sort of like queer family, but also still combating like hatred and sort of discrimination and stuff. And it's like charming. It's like cute. There's some nice stuff in it. I feel like it's pretty heartfelt. I feel like the performers are all mostly good. I feel like some of the stuff dealing with like the societal ills of homophobia is like a little bit too on the nose. Like it feels kind of like a very special episode of like a teen show that used to be on NBC in the afternoons on Saturday or something. Like I don't really want to be comparing a vampire movie to like City Guys, you know what I mean? But I thought it was nice. It was like pleasant. The movie has this visual thing that's a little bit like tiresome to me, which is like, in my little letterbox thing, I called it like YouTube cinematography. And then I think it said it's actually more like OnlyFans cinematography, which is like the lighting is all very colorful, but it's like, it doesn't feel motivated beyond like an aesthetic, but it's not like actually like a really nice looking aesthetic. My friend Cole, I think when he logged it, his entire review was just like, I don't like, I don't mind cheapness, but like, I wish someone would have taught these kids about white balance. That's kind of the vibe. And it's, I don't know, man. Like, it was like an 80-minute movie, pretty short, pretty straightforward. I love vampire shit. It just didn't hit for me. I think it was a bad movie. I thought it was nice, but I literally just went to fucking sleep. I was like, I'm not watching any more movies tonight. I tapped out. Those are the last 2 movies I watched this week. And, I've spent a lot more time not watching movies. I've spent a lot more time just like, catching up in group chats and like watching TikToks and like just doing chill stuff, and not watching people get splatter murdered at summer camp. But I'm going to fix that soon. Like I got to get back in. Like I love watching horror movies around this time of year. It just feels right. But I think I just put too many esoteric choices on my list that were not things in the vein of what I really wanted to be watching. So, and I have a handful more of like artier fare on my list that I have to get through, but I do have some other stuff that's more of my speed, hopefully. So it'll all balance out. But at the beginning of the week, like right after I've released last week's episode, I watched Raising Cain. Since I watched De Palma's Sisters a couple of episodes ago, I got the itch to watch more De Palma because I love De Palma. And a lot of his movies are, technically like thrillers, not horror. And my rule for what I would put on these Hooptober lists, it's very arbitrary, but I basically went by whatever genres were listed on Letterboxd. So like as long as something was listed as a horror, even if it's like very, very narrow or we think it's a stretch, I'd say it counted. And the only other De Palma movie that counted as horror, according to Letterboxd, that I have not seen was Raising Cain. And I remember them talking about it a little bit in the De Palma documentary, but it didn't seem like something I wanted to watch. Jonathan Lithgow is the star. I just didn't know anything about it to want to watch it. I was like, I don't know. But I was like, I've seen a couple of interesting reviews on Letterboxd, and I was like, I'm going to give this shit a shot. And I knew that there were 2 different cuts of the movie. So what my plan was, I was going to watch the theatrical cut, and then I was going to go to bed, and the next morning I was going to watch the director's cut because I was very curious to see how they were different. And I acquired them through other means than official channels. And when I started the movie, I immediately discovered that I actually just downloaded the director's cut twice, just with different file names. So I was like, all right, we're just going to watch the director's cut, I guess. And I'm glad I did, because it definitely seemed like the right version of the story. Raising Cain is, De Palma has this thing he does really well. Like in Sisters, the movie opens up with like, you think you're watching like a Peeping Tom sequence. Then you realize, oh, you're watching a game show. And then you're like, oh, these people from the game show, they're going to go on a date. Like it just keeps kind of like pulling back, you know? You don't know what the thing's going to be about. And then he ends up getting to like the stabby stuff. With Raising Cain, it starts out just being about like this woman. I think the actress's name is like Lola Davidovich or something. She looks very similar to Lindsay Krause of House of Games fame. David Mamet's ex-wife, the college professor from season 4 of Buffy. It looks kind of like her. And she's in like a watch store with her husband, played by Jonathan Lithgow, and their daughter. And he just seems like this doting, kind of nerdy golden retriever husband who's off playing with their daughter. And she runs into an ex-lover of some sort. And it's like a very tense thing. And then he accidentally leaves his like hotel key and stuff, or accidentally or whatever. Not really accidentally. And she gets him a gift. In addition to the gift she's getting for her husband, and she plans to go give it to him. And she goes into his hotel room while he's not there. She puts the gift in his little like the little drawer thing in the hotel room, like where they put the Gideon Bible. And when she gets home to go hide her husband's gift, she realizes she left her husband's gift at the hotel and only has her ex-lover's gift. So she has to go back in the middle of the night, and then she goes back and he's at the hotel and they gotta fuck. They just get it in. And I think I read somewhere that De Palma's original inspiration for the story was that he was fucking a married woman and he thought about what would happen. Like he had to wake her up the next morning to go someplace important. And he wondered, like, what if I don't wake her up? What would happen then? And that's kind of how he got the ball rolling for the script, which is savage and weird, but whatever. So she's like cheating on her husband, and she's like talking to other moms about it. And basically you find out that her husband has like multiple personality disorder, or like some version of it. De Palma is notorious for having like really questionable stuff when it comes to like mental health. Okay. So all the psychological stuff about Cain's character is like a bit much. It's a bit overwrought, but basically Jonathan Lithgow's character has different personalities because when he was a kid, his father was a psychologist who abused him in order to purposely give him multiple personality disorder so he could figure out how to cure it. So as an adult, Cain thinks he is completing his father's work, and to do so he has to kidnap children and then kill their mom so that he has more test subjects. It's very involved, but it's got Lithgow playing his normal nerdy self, and then also Cain, like this like kind of badass side thing, and then he also is his like dad, and then he also is like a little scared boy, and he's also like this like mean taskmaster lady. I might be forgetting a personality, but it's that type of movie. And it's got a lot of twists and turns and stuff, but it's got really strong. De Palma's so good at like the Hitchcocky type of thriller sequence. There's a sequence where this scientist who like doctor who used to work with his father is like explaining all this stuff. It's a really heavy like walk and talk, and it's just this really long oneer. And the whole time they're doing the oneer, I can't remember his name, but one of the actor, it's a guy who's in a lot of De Palma movies. The guy who's playing the cop walking with this woman is essentially like directing the oneer, like because he has to keep going. Oh no, turn here, like oh walk down these stairs, and like it's De Palma. It's like De Palma through and through. And the final like climax is like really, really well done. The actual last shot of the movie is insane. So if you're looking for more De Palma movies and you want to start somewhere or whatever, Raising Cain's actually pretty fun. It's like kind of unhinged. It's like quote unquote lesser De Palma. It's not a movie that I think people would like go out of their way to see, but I really liked it. I really quite enjoyed it. And I'm glad I watched like the good cut. And then after that, of course, I rewatched Megan, because why not? This is my third time seeing it. I saw the theatrical at a press screening. I saw the director's unrated cut or whatever on Peacock, and then this time I watched the theatrical again. And I love Megan so much. It's like one of my favorite movies of the year. I don't know. I mean, almost everyone I know likes it, but I feel like it still feels like it doesn't get enough love, which is crazy. I mean, I think that's just me being like a fan about it, because everyone I know who's seen it likes it, but it still feels like it didn't get as big as possible, you know. But I think the thing that pisses me off about it is I feel like they should have known it was going to connect, and they should have been ready to go with a sequel. And I don't think we're getting the sequel to like 2025 at this rate. And this is even pre-strike stuff, by the way. Like they were not on the ball. And I just wonder if they're even going to be able to recapture the zeitgeist by the time it comes around. It's kind of a bummer. I feel like with horror stuff, especially horror franchises, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Get that shit out the next year. Don't fuck around. And they've kind of fucked around a little bit. But it was fun rewatching. I still liked it. No real complaints. Only real complaint was I just felt like maybe Megan should have killed more people. I feel more people should have died. I don't know if they're just trying to save more carnage for the future installments, but I felt like this one she should have definitely fucked up more people. Then I went to a press screening last week for Killers of the Flower Moon, obviously, and I had initially intended to talk more about the movie, like just stuff that didn't fit into my shorter, interesting review. But I also thought I was going to have time to go see it again before I had to record this, and I have not done that yet. I'm hoping to do that sometime this weekend, so I think I might save that for next episode. But suffice to say, Killers of the Flower Moon is an incredible movie. I really loved it. It is making me feel kind of the way I did when I first saw The Irishman, which is that I liked The Irishman. I thought it was cool. That was pretty good, whatever. And then every minute after that, like for a week, 2-3 weeks, I just kept thinking about it and like obsessing over it and stuff and like really, really kind of pouring it over my mind. And it's a good feeling. It's nice to have a movie that like leaves you with a lot to chew on, which is, increasingly rare these days. So I'm excited about seeing it again, and I'm excited about more people seeing it. So far I've seen a handful of friends log it on Letterboxd today, and they all seem to also love it. So I'm glad that I'm not crazy. I don't know. Anytime, as a critic, anytime you get to see something early or however early, you don't know how people are going to react to it. And sometimes like you review a movie and you're like all in on it, and then everyone else watches it and you're like, oh, everybody hates it. I think I've told the story about that with like The Last Jedi, where like I thought everyone was going to love The Last Jedi, and I was so wrong. Or I really loved Mank, the Fincher movie. I was crazy about Mank, and I got up super early the day that it hit Netflix, and I watched it, and then I made a video about it and all this stuff. And then right after I put the video out, I went to the timeline and saw people just shitting on it, who were just like, "Oh, fuck this movie," and I was like, "Oh man, I'm out on my own here on this limb." But that didn't happen with Killers of the Flower Moon. Why would it? What a beautiful movie. So the only other thing I really watched was I watched most of the VHS horror anthology franchise. Prior to this, I had only ever seen VHS Viral, and no, wait, that's not true. That's the one I watched this week. I watched VHS, the first one. I watched VHS Viral, which is like the fourth one, I think. Then I watched VHS 99, and then I watched VHS 85. So there's two that I'd already seen, and they were like fine. Like I'm not, horror anthologies can be so hit or miss. And it's a little bit frustrating actually, because like sometimes like they're really, really good. And then sometimes you're like, there's like 6 chapters and they all suck dick, it's really, really strange to me. But, the ones before I had seen, VHS 2 and VHS 94, those are the ones I'd previously seen, I guess. And, VHS 2, Timo, the guy that directed like The Night Comes For Us, has a really good short in VHS 2, and someone else has one that I really liked in it. I'm trying to look it up, sorry. I guess the Timo one was probably my favorite one in that. But then in VHS 94, I think that's the one that has the Ratma short in it. Yeah, that's the one with the Ratma in it, and also has a Timo one. Like my favorite Timo one actually, with Subject 99, which is like a really, really cool little like short. But I watched these other ones. I'd never seen the original. I thought I had, but I watched the original for the first time, and I was like, this is not for me. It's much more like, this franchise was sort of born in the mumblegore world. So Adam Wingard, Swanberg works on this one, the guys from Radio Silence, all these people. And they have this sort of like raw, energy to them that is like kind of grating, to be quite honest, because it's just like a bunch of shorts about a bunch of just like irritating young white dudes, and it's just kind of hard to actually watch. We're just like, was not really a big fan of it. Like the first short was like not very good. Bruckner, the guy that did like the new version of Hellraiser, I think, and also the Night House, he has a short in it that's like has a cool twist, and the end is cool, but building up to it is like terrible. And then they have this one short that I thought was really cool, where it's essentially like it's like a slasher, but the killer is like a visual video glitch that people can't see, that I thought could have been cool for like a whole feature at some point, but like they never really picked that up or anything. And then Swanberg makes one about a guy who's like a doctor talking to his long distance girlfriend via webcam, and there's like a big sort of like twist about their whole deal. And that one's pretty good, I guess. Here's my issue with all the VHS movies, actually, and just found footage horror in general, is that as like a subgenre, most of the people that work in found footage, it always feels like they got bullied into it. It always feels like they wanted to make something else, and then someone else was like, make it found footage. And then they were like, fuck, now I have to come up with a conceit for why people are filming this. And the conceit they come up with is always nonsense. It's always like such a cheat. And I always just wish people just like tried harder. I don't know how else to say it. I just wish people like attempted to do something with this format. And a lot of times it feels like people just throw in the towel very quickly. And I think that's a bummer. Where it's like, you could have done other cool shit, and then you just sort of chose not to. Like, for instance, after this, I watched VHS Viral, which is the one that came out in 2014. And there's a whole short about like a magician who finds a cloak that used to be Houdini's that actually allows you to do real magic, but you have to kill people and feed it to the cloak for you to have magic powers. And that entire short is essentially set up like a TV special about this murderous magician. It does not fit in the found foot. It's like, what? This is just a completely different thing. Like, it's cool, but it doesn't, like, you're cheating. This is not, why is this in VHS, you know? So I wasn't really big into that, even though I like stuff with magic. The only short in that one that I was actually pretty cool into was Nacho Viga. What the fuck is his last name? The guy that made Time Crimes. Nacho Vigalondo. Yeah, I was right. He has this short about a guy who is filming a portal he made to like an alternate world, and he sees another version of himself, and they decide to switch places to take 10 minutes and look in each other's worlds. And that one's really good. I was really, really into that. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really cool use of the gimmick. But otherwise I was not into it. And then I watched VHS 99 and 85, like the ones from like once like Shudder kind of took over. And these are like better. In particular, VHS 99 has Flying Lotus did a short, and I hate it. An episode or two ago, I talked about hating his movie Kuso. I thought it sucked. So I did not have high hopes for this, but I watched it, and his short is so good. It is like this really well textured and detailed recreation of Nickelodeon game shows like Legends of the Hidden Temple and stuff. And it goes in some really interesting places. It's like funny. It's like horrifying. I thought it was really good. I was like, oh, now I get why people, you know, thought Fly Loader should like make movies. They saw this. And then, you know, well, I guess technically I think this is made after Kuso. So maybe he just got better after it. Maybe he had to get Kuso out of his system to be able to make stuff like this. But if you're going to see any of the VHS movies, watch that one just for that short, really. And then I watched 85, which is like the newer one. And there's like two really good ones. There's this one called Techno God, and it's sort of about, you know, it's all set in 1985 or whatever. And it's about going into like a virtual, it's very Lawnmower Man-y. It's pretty cool. And then there's these two other shorts, all from the same director. That it's not the framing sequence, but it's just two shorts that are like connected, like they interact with each other. And when you're first watching it, you don't know that they're going to, and it's pretty cool the way they do it. But the big main course is Scott Derrickson of Doctor Strange and Sinister and the Black Phone fame has one called I it's called Dream Kill. It's called Dream Kill. And it's really good. Freddie Rodriguez is in it as a cop, and James Ransone is a like a forensics guy. And they basically go, you see this like this first person video of like a really grisly murder. And it kind of has like giallo vibes, but like gritty and not as like cool and slick in Italian. And when as it cuts to like Rodriguez and Ransom going to this crime scene, he's talking about how someone sent the precinct this tape, like this VHS tape of a really grisly weird murder they thought was like a prank. And they walk in and it's this murder. So then they keep getting these tapes before the murders happen or something. And there ends up being sort of like a semi-supernatural explanation for why. And it also, I guess, is technically crosses over with The Black Phone, which is kind of cool. It was really good. I thought it was really well made. It was one of the better things I've seen Scott Derrickson do. He can be kind of a goober on Twitter, but I was like, he's pretty talented. I gotta give the guy props. I really liked it. So yeah, the two of all the VHS ones I watched, like the two that I would recommend the hardest are the Fly Low short from 99 and then the Dream Kill from 85. Like really, really good. But yeah, otherwise, I like I said, I think I needed a break maybe. So I think this weekend I'll dig back into it. We'll get back in and watch the rest of this list, or start to and try. But yeah, that's what I watched this week. We have time for questions, but I have one question this week. So the only question we got this week is from my friend Fatura, and she says, question for the next one. What cinema thing, movie, director, popcorn flavoring, etc., would have you saying the film equivalent of some head-ass nonsense like the Beatles are actually quite underrated? Okay. This is funny because I feel like the simplest actual answer to this is when it comes to like a corollary for the Beatles are underrated is I've actually said, and I think it's true before, I think Steven Spielberg is really underrated. And that is a little bit of headassery, but he's essentially like the biggest, most known, most successful filmmaker of all time. You know what I mean? And for so long, when I was growing up and stuff, I always saw people talk about him like he was just like this fucking sellout loser. Like he was fake and all of his movies are too sentimental and all this like shit that didn't make sense to me really. Because when I was like a teenager, he put out AI, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can. Like he put out a bunch of bangers back to back, and I loved them. I think I loved them more than his other classical movies too, you know? So whenever I would see people say that type of stuff about him, or like, he was one of those filmmakers you couldn't say, oh, I love Spielberg, because they'd be like, oh, okay, like you're just like a normie. And it's like, no, not really. I mean, like he's not, yeah, like he's really successful, but he's also really good, you know? And that's kind of a similar argument about the Beatles, right? Although I don't care about the Beatles, I'm not very into their music or anything to the point that I would defend them in a conversation. But Spielberg, you know, I do. I'm very familiar. I love the man. And I feel like he's one of those people who has been considered overrated for so long that he's actually underrated. And I know that is kind of like a silly thing, I guess, but that's kind of I've always looked at him. I feel like that about Ridley Scott a little bit too. I myself used to massively think he was overrated, and I always sort of thought the wrong brother died and shit like that. But like I went through a bunch of his movies that I'd never seen previously, and rewatched a bunch of movies I hadn't seen in a long time, and I really fuck with Ridley. I mean, when he's not on, it's not, sometimes when he's off, you're like, who's this guy? When he's on, he's great, you know? He's someone that I feel like is kind of underrated. But again, it's like saying that makes you sound like a fucking dipshit, because you're like, oh, the guy that made Alien and Blade Runner is underrated? That's how you feel? Like, but that is kind of how I feel sometimes. I can't be the only one. I like how you added popcorn flavoring. I don't think I have any like controversial headassery comments about popcorn flavoring. Although I feel like anytime you get those little like flavor shaker things, there's no point in getting anything other than white cheddar. Like, why are you getting anything other than white cheddar? Everything else is going to taste bad. I like garlic parmesan, all things. And even that I think is not quite right on popcorn. The Alamo has like this like truffle parm popcorn that's actually pretty fucking good. I can't lie. I kind of want some right now. I'm kind of hungry. But yeah, that's Spielberg and really underrated in my opinion. and they both, I think Spielberg's developing a Napoleon thing. I think it's supposed to be from Kubrick's too. I don't remember. Whatever. Yeah. So that's the episode this week. That's what I watched. That's the question. That's all the stuff from the news. Yeah, that's everything. We got everything. Thank you for listening. If you are listening to this on like Spotify or whatever the hell, give me like a good rating. If you like it, obviously don't like lie, or leave a review or share it with your friends. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, it would be good to hit the subscribe button. And you can hit the little bell icon to get notifications whenever I put out new videos. The pod comes out every Friday at noon without fail so far. And then I try to put out other videos in between. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But if you have your notifications on, you'll always be the first to know. And that's knowing's half the battle. If you have any questions for future episodes, you can leave them in the comments of the YouTube video. You can hit me up on Twitter at allnewdom. You can send me an email, armchairauteur@gmail.com. I'm on Blue Sky, Instagram, all this stuff. I'm everywhere. You can find me and ask me a question, and I will answer it for you because that's just who I am. So thank you guys all for supporting the show and for listening and for taking the time and spending it with me. And I hope you're all doing good. I hope everyone's doing all right. I hope the world, your world, is doing good, considering that the world is not very much right now. Things are pretty bad. So yeah, we'll talk soon.